My guest today is Veli Ngubane. He's the managing director of the Avatar Group. So, Veli, first of all, welcome to the Marketing Wars feature on the Ashraf Garda show.
Thank you. Great feature, much needed in our industry. Thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you. And of course, I suppose what's much needed for you is this ongoing problem around transformation in your industry. So perhaps let's just take a step back. You've written something. There's been lots of discussion. I would think prompted, in fact, by hashtag Black Lives Matter and the goings on, in particular in the USA just over a week ago. So first, give me some context. Why the concern? And then we'll talk about South Africa and your marketing space specifically.
Okay, and I think that's a vital place to start. I think it's something that I've been actively involved in, from the board positions that I sit to the IEB Transformation Council head, and just a way to make sure that more Black participants are participating in the industry. Now, it's something that a lot of people have been talking about for a long time. And my conversation about it, especially this week, is to look at it a bit more differently. Is to say, over the years, why haven't we achieved it? What is wrong with the conversation? And I got thinking, and some of the issues, it's because transformation has been framed as a political issue where it's actually an economic issue. You know, it's about the economy more than it is about politics, although related, but acutely about economic transformation more than political transformation.
All right, let me stop you there and understand that. Why would transformation in South Africa be more about economics than about politics?
So the American condition is very different to our South African context. And that's why when people compare it, as much as it's related, it's not the same. There's a few factors that are different. In Black Lives Matter in America is very different to Black Lives Mattering in South Africa for two reasons. One, Black people in America are the minority. In South Africa, we are the majority. That's the first big reason, right? Now, we have political power as the majority, and Americans do not have political power. So their struggle is really about rights. So they are still on the struggle that we overcome in 1994. So it's totally different. Their struggle is very different. So ours was achieved in 1994. We achieved political freedom, but we haven't achieved economic freedom. So although comparable in terms of the rights, but when we talk about Black Lives Mattering, it's a very different context in the American context than it is in the South African context, because we have achieved our political freedom. What we haven't achieved is our economic freedom. And that's why I say transformation, therefore, is about economic transformation of the people that were previously oppressed politically.
Okay, so let's then zone in specifically in your advertising and marketing space in your industry, right? So do you have economic freedom in the marketing space?
Not yet. I think it's exactly what we are talking about here. It's about having and gaining more people of color in executive position, in decision-making positions, in the agencies that previously were occupied by Black people. So that's the start of it. That's the start of transformation. The second layer of it is getting more entrepreneurs and participants, so more Black-owned agencies involved in it. So we are very, very far from it in our industry. And again, it's because it's been positioned as a black and white issue. And it actually isn't. It goes to what is right about growing the industry. And again, because it's been framed as Black people replacing white people, which it's not. What it is Black people and people of diversity and women coming into a system and making it better and making it grow. And I think what Black Lives have highlighted And that's where the conversation is that our agency world is not equipped to deal with race issues. You've seen the silence from brands, you've seen the silence from agencies, and that is an issue of diversity. They don't have people that are diverse enough in the room to have an opinion. We've seen brands blunder, not because it's a black and white issue, because it's a diversity issue of people resisting transformation, therefore not having the insight to be able to communicate on issues of race, and not having the moral license to communicate on issues of race. Okay. So once we start seeing it as a nation against racial oppression, against racial exclusion, then we start to elevate the argument beyond just black people replacing white people in positions, because that's where it's kind of been. And I believe that has been the biggest problem in its resistance.
Right. You've said lots of things. Let's start with the numbers. When we talk about, transforming your industry, I mean, what are the numbers? That means, how many people are in the industry? How many black-owned agencies? How many black South Africans are in leadership positions versus South Africans who are not black or white in leadership positions? I mean, give me some indication of where we're at.
So what I've done with the IAB Council, we are partnering with an academic institution to do research on the past 26 years of transformation. Another problem is exactly what you're talking about. Who is measuring? What are the reports on it? And what is the goals that we have as an industry to reach? And before we actually get there, we've got no scientific data to actually evaluate whether we are doing well or not. It's people's opinions, and those opinions are right because we see it. We see it in the boardrooms. We see it when clients award agencies. There are not enough black-owned agencies, and those agencies you can basically count with your hand. They're really sizable ones. So we need more sizable agencies that can compete for a bigger part of the business. So it starts there. It starts with a measured approach, because before you achieve something, you have to be able to have a benchmark of, in the last 26 years, this is what has happened. These are the types of BE transactions that have happened. These are the types of leadership positions. And then we can start to evaluate. And another thing that has been problematic with empowerment is that we've always wanted to look back, like pre-apartheid. It's been a science of looking back when it actually should be a science of looking into the future, because the generations that come shouldn't inherit that. And once we have an academic study that really points out and points the way to say what has worked in transformation, what hasn't worked in transformation, then we've got a game plan. Then we can start handing over those measurements and matrix to the next generation so they can evaluate whether we actually have enough or are we actually progressing. And then we have measurement. Okay. So that's the question.
You see the numbers you speak about, the IAB, perhaps you can just tell us who that is and whether, if you're saying that there's no research on the numbers, I'm not too sure whether that's true. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Did not Odette Roper and company get involved in a MAC charter, but this is a good few years ago, and maybe I've got some of the terminology wrong, to determine just that, to push together the process of transformation. So my point is, like, are we saying that there is no research available that has been put together by the mother body looking at marketing and advertising in the country? And if the answer is no, then why would that be no up to now? That's quite incredible, because I would have thought that there has to be some research done long before, and there has to have been some definite attempts to transform. And I've had many chats about this when I hosted the media show on SAFM before.
Definitely. There is research out there, but what I'm saying is that it needs to be monitored research. Research is one thing being done 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but until it's accepted research on a collective view of the entire industry, bodies that have conducted different types of research, that we need a collective game plan led by research. Because research is one thing. Research will tell you there's not enough black females in leadership positions. Research will tell you that there's not enough people of color, which is good. But what we haven't gotten to is, and then what? And then how do we fix that? Because we'll be in this tailspin of knowing the obvious. We see the industry, we are in the industry, we are aware that there's not enough black participation. We are aware that there's not enough black-owned agencies. But what do we do? How do we use research and data to make sure that we pan out a future plan to say, by 2023, this is the milestone that we as an industry, regardless of the industry body, this is where we need to go. So for me, research is one thing and research is important. But there's a next step after research to say, okay, we know what the research is. What is the game plan using that research to make a plan? You know, even for brands, on a brand level, what is your diversity plan? What is your transformation plan? And what are your milestones? And are you reaching those milestones? So that's really it. So to answer your question, research is widely available. Research has been done. Academic research has been done. But what I haven't seen is the research leading to a plan with milestones that are measurable across the industry. And that's what we really
So
need.
if you're saying that is an issue of serious concern, because I'm thinking, and maybe you can help us with this here. So who is the mother body that should be driving this plan based upon the research that you've alluded to? And if the mother body is not doing so, then what are the agencies that belong to the mother body, including, let's say, yours, Avatar? What are you doing to ensure that the mother body does just that?
That's exactly the conversation that we are having with these bodies. It's a conversation that doesn't rest with just one body. I think it's a collective conversation with the different bodies and the different interest groups. Again, the biggest enemy of transformation is the division and not having one common voice to what we want to achieve. And therein lies some of the problems. You know, so we need to make sure that all these bodies that represent agencies in different levels collaborate in order to have a game plan about where this industry is going in terms of transformation. So it's that disunity that becomes the enemy of transformation, because we do not have a coordinated plan and an agreement of the milestones that we need to achieve as the agency. And because historically it's been positioned as equality versus equity. Transformation is more about equity than it is about equality, because equality would suggest that black people that start agencies want to be equal to white-owned agencies, which is not the case. What we want and what we need in the industry to transform is an equitable share that is reflecting the demographics of this country. Now, a lot of people get emotional about it, but it's actually quite factual. You've got a country and you've got an industry that is servicing a consumer that is predominantly black, and the agencies and the people that are servicing with the insight to service those people surely need to be black. So it's really about that, Ashraf. So it's about unity.
So I mean,
and it's about the agency.
Okay, I would think, I mean, this is going to require a follow-up discussion with other parties involved, absolutely, and maybe even predominantly white-owned agencies, right? But let me understand this for clarity, right? We understand the why. I think the why is an easy sell. We understand why. And I think the how is where we're sitting with the problem, right? Are you saying that in your advertising, marketing space across the board, there is no charter where the agencies have been asked to agree and therefore sign up to a commitment to transform their industries by transforming their agencies, let's say, in the last 5 years? Are you saying there's nothing like that?
So I'm saying that it's not a united effort. There is that. There is the MAC Charter. There is transformation laws. There is all these things that we have. But what I'm saying is that it's not a united effort to get to the goals that we all collectively want, as all the different agency owners, as all the different entities that are wanting this industry to grow in a vision. That is the problem. Mine is saying is that there's agreements and different people are going totally different directions when they should be united to say this is where we want to take the industry. Is that it needs a coordinated way of making sure that in the industry, irregardless of what associations we belong to, have got a common goal to go. But not even that. We need to be able to measure that what we've agreed on is what is happening and the milestones to that.
Are these agreements, are they voluntary agreements? That means, let's take your agency, Avatar. If you choose to sign up, you sign up and you follow through. And if you choose not to, you don't sign up and you don't follow through, or you sign up and you don't follow through anyway. I mean, help us understand that.
So there should be consequences. It's voluntary. As an agency owner, I can choose which organization I need to belong to. So it's voluntary. So what I'm saying is that our conversation now must go even beyond that. It must go beyond what your agency is part of, because what we are trying to do is for the greater good of transformation. What we are saying is that transformation is not happening. We need to research and find out what has happened for transformation not to happen. It's like a CODESA. We all need to come as agencies, whether it's a conference, whether it's a symposium. We need to all come back, sit down, and say, if us have not achieved what we want to see in terms of the industry reflected. And when we say we commonly agree, that's the point, right? We have the research to back it up, and we say, okay, for the next 10 years, what do we all want to collectively see in the industry, and what the history is the important thing, regardless of who you are part of us. The problem is, if we do not have that unity, if we do not have, our industry will not grow to its full potential, because it won't reach the type of diversity that it needs to serve a consumer.
Okay, you're talking about that economic imperative. Let's just go back to the numbers, because I just need clarity on this. And I'm not saying we need to be exactly specific on this thing here, but approximately what percentage of agencies in the country are black-owned, number one? Approximately what percentage of agencies have black people on board? That means what percentage of black people are on boards of agencies? And approximately what percentage of people in the broader advertising marketing space are employed in that space who are black? I mean, just give us rough percentages, because it helps me then get a picture of what we're talking about here.
So there's also a very different way of thinking, which goes beyond the numbers. And addition should be, is that okay? The black participants that are in the industry, they have enough franchise and power to effect change in those organizations. Because I think our history, yes, I've got 3 board members here, but are they empowered enough to make the change? Right? So it starts there. It starts with re-looking and not just chasing the numbers per se, to say, this MD that we have here, this creative head that we have here, are they empowered enough to really affect change in the organization, or are they just there because they are black? So that is a conversation that we need to have. Right, and then secondly, the research will be able to tell the real specifics of that. But it's about having people of color in empowered decisions to make fundamental changes in those organizations and have the franchise to do that, that goes beyond just chasing the numbers to say, oh, we've got 50% of our board that is black, we've got 25% that is female. That is good. But we need to go even a level deeper to say, are those people empowered in those agencies? Are those people empowered in that brand space to make the decisions to actually effect change? And that is what
I take it then. I mean, you don't need me to set up this meeting. I mean, I would take it even long beyond this chat here, that you and your colleagues in the industry, black and white, would be having your own sort of talks before talks to set it up, isn't it?
Definitely. So we're planning to talk, and I think what Black Lives Matter in a South African context has catalyzed is the urgent need for insight. It's the urgent need to make sure that our agencies are transformed enough to deal with racial issues. Now, that is a very important thing that is now a business imperative. So what we are saying is that beyond the scorecard, beyond the necessary legal requirement, our product as marketers, our product as advertisers is starting to suffer because we do not have enough diversity in the people that make the work. We do not have enough powerful people in the industry, and we do not have enough black-owned agencies. And I usually don't like this when there's about 4 or 5 agencies that are black-owned and they're doing well. That's not enough. We need to make sure that we've got more agencies, and we are setting up this dialogue. And for me, it's not a dialogue of race. It's not a dialogue against black and white. It's dialogue of growing the industry because diversity has been proven to be good for creativity. Diversity has been proven to be good for the economy because then you've got different thoughts.
When is this dialogue likely to happen? I mean, give us some timelines.
I'm thinking this year. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of planning, but it will definitely happen this year. And I want it to be a Codesa style where we leave our differences, and it's not about race, but it's for the future of the industry. It's a dialogue that must happen very soon because it's something that is much needed. And what Black Lives Matters and the silence from both agencies and brands around the topic, it's showing that people don't know how to deal with it. Now, that creates tension. That already is playing out on social media when people are making these mistakes publicly. Mm-hmm. Now, conference that we need to have, this gathering that we need to have, saves our businesses because it says we need to have more people that are diverse around the table so that we can protect ourselves against things that we don't understand. And it's about removing the fear. Black people want to replace white people. That is not the case. The case is the more we collaborate, the case is the more we work together, the case is the more agencies of color are getting a slice of the pie, it's going to reflect in the work. And because ours is to connect with the consumer, we will start connecting with the consumer more. And basically our skill, even by client, will be taken more seriously because it will be more effective.
Okay. Because here's a question to end with, right? Would Avatar as an agency, would you or do you, in fact, only take on work if you agree with the general ethos of the brands that you represent?
We take on work if we agree with the direction of where the brand is going. We previously took on H&M.
I'm aware of it.
Yeah. When they were in crisis, right? Now, ours as brand practitioners is to evaluate how do you want your future to look. So it's not to look at the brand in its current state or in its current needs of the mistakes that it's had. You say, okay, here's H&M. There's been a racially linked problem. we've got the skills to make sure that we help you out of that. If you see a future that is different to your reality, we are there to help. So for me, when we take on brands and when we win brands and when we pitch on brands, for me, it's more about what the future plan is more than what the past or the present is. Because ours is reform, ours is to change. And similarly to even the white-owned agencies that are struggling with transformation, it's not to point fingers and say, "Hey, so and so is not doing this." It's to help. It's to help conscientize what the problem
Yeah.
is, and also come and offer a solution to say, "This is what you need to do." Because maybe you're struggling. Maybe it's not that you don't want to transform. Maybe you're just struggling with understanding how to. Right now, we need to be there as Black agency owners to show you the value of diversity. One, because we live it, and two, to show you how much better your product is to client, how good it is for your business. And even beyond that, how good it is for the country, because the amount of creativity that we have just in lying in the township, in the rural areas, is incredible. And it can make those
Okay.
brands. We are positioned to take brands that see a future that is diverse, a future that is transformed, and brands that want to make a difference in the future of this country, because that is really who we want to be in this brand space.
Okay, let's leave it with this. I mean, agencies effectively represent brands in providing the type of creativity needed for the brands to communicate to the consumers, right? Do you find, therefore, that by and large, and you gave the H&M example, I mean, you guys took on the job after they were trashed in South Africa around, I think, those monkey T-shirts, if I'm not mistaken, right? But do you find, by and large, brands are tone deaf, and therefore agencies have a responsibility not only to produce or provide creativity, but also to provide a level of consciousness that the brands can then embrace when they communicate with their customer?
Definitely. That is part and parcel of the need of the communication. You need to understand the tone of your market. You need to understand the mood of your market, because therein lies the strategic way to connect with them. So the brands that are tone deaf will carry on making those mistakes, not necessarily because they're racist, but because they're not diverse enough to actually understand the other side, right? And equally, for us is to make sure that we understand the context of the people in which we are marketing to. So for me, again, I emphasize that it's not about race, it's not about black and white. It is about us understanding what we want for the future of this industry and adding enough diversity in our teams to cater for a very, very diverse country. Now, that is very, very important.
Okay,
And that will take the future of our industry.
let's leave it at that. Maybe hashtag the struggle continues. Veli Ngubane from the Avatar Agency, thank you for your time and joining me on Marketing Wars. Needless to say that I certainly would need to get another side or sides of opinions in terms of where South Africa is in the marketing space and transformation, and what more needs to be happening. So there we are. Thank you for your time.